I was asked to give my lecture in English because my Slovenian is really, really poor. I can read it, I can even write something in Slovenian, but I cannot speak. Assumption is that you're also not understanding Croatian, so the English is actually the choice of this lecture, as I believe that most of you are speaking English much better than me, so I'm apologizing for my English in advance. And I want to thank to my colleagues, especially to Nadia, for inviting me to give this lecture, which I will do with a great pleasure. As colleagues Sarah already said, I think the basic information of what I'm doing. I will just give a few more details to explain why this topic. So in the last 10 years, I'm focusing in the most of my career on the research of the relation between art and politics. And in particular on the relation, that's how I started, on the art and politics in the period of socialism in the Central East Europe, and in Yugoslavia in particular, because it's a historical experience of socialism that is closest to region and to my personal experience. But in the last 5-6 years, it was expanded to research on art politics relations in more global settings, depending on our research or related to our research that was conducted in the Institute together with the colleagues from this academy on the practices of international cultural exchange from the perspective of Yugoslav participation in the non-aligned movement. Simultaneously with the research on those topics, as of course it's also a lifelong interest in feminist art history and feminist theory of art. So the interest in digital art history started like 10 or 12 years ago. I was following the research of the colleague Maximilian Schick, who was working at that time at the Northern University in Texas, and who was trying to build up or reconstruct the network or the entire process of spreading the culture from the, I think, 7th century AC until the present time. And sometime when he and his team were at the end of their research, we started our project. That was reconstruction, or idea was to reconstruct the models of organization that were behind the artistic networks of the 20th century. So this is how, from where the interest for digital technology came. And it was developing through this and the project which I just mentioned, into interest into development of digital tools that could be applied in art history as analytic tools. So not only to visualize your data, but also to analyze the relations between data. And I think that we are a little bit stuck now, because we wanted to try, we were looking how to connect data which are describing relations in space and time with the data which are describing the relations within the social networks. It doesn't seem very complicated, but if you approach time as nonlinear and approach the space as a shifting, you have a problem. And that problem is of theoretical nature. It's a theoretical problem of space-time relation. And actually it doesn't have a sufficiently general answer, but I believe it had to be tied to some particular situations. So that's the source of my interest in the topic of today's lecture. I have to warn you that, unfortunately for me, I have never worked with artists. I was working with young art historians, and we are different kind of people with different interests. And I think a little, perhaps problematic insight in the problems and you have and in your practices. Just for my information at the beginning of this lecture, could you tell me, I just would like to know if any of you, I believe that I'm talking with artists, if any of you used artificial intelligence system. Okay, can I just ask in which capacity?
I use it to generate audio, songs, and so on.
Okay. Has anybody used it to play or to generate visual images? No, you did.
Everybody did.
Okay, so everybody did. It's very nice to know that you all have experience with artificial intelligence. Perhaps then from that perspective, I don't have to explain the architecture of GAN, because you have met it already, so you know how the system is, how the neural networks are taught to recognize images and to connect them with the text. So I don't have to explain it. So it's important for me. I would like to start. So the interest for artificial intelligence and its application in art came also from the fact that in digital art history, I think we have some similar problems. And this is the problems of use and misuse of images. The problem of copyrights and the problem of the ownership over the data as the most valuable economic resource at this moment. So I will start with, I don't know if you, I hope you are following what's happening in this area. So this is the area of the abuse, I would say, of the artist's copyrights to their own work. These are the front pages or the pages from the internet sites bringing the news about the commence of the lawsuit that was initiated in 2023. It was initiated by the group of women artists. Let me just check their names because I don't know them. So by Sarah Anderson, Kelly McKernan, and Carl Ortiz, all three of them working in the field of graphic design, and accusing three of the most influential artificial image generators for using the images of their artworks without acknowledging their copyrights, their rights to their own work. Interesting thing is that the lawsuit has two stages. After the first stage, a judge brought the verdict that the artificial image generators are not obliged to give any kind of reimbursement to artists for using their images, for scrapping their images from the internet. But he opened the door for still another stage of the process, asking artists to provide additional information, an additional explanation for grounding their complaint, their lawsuit, and that in that case he will initiate the second stage of the lawsuit, which really happened. In the meantime, those three artists were joined by 6 others, and the lawsuit finished in August this year. And the final verdict was that the AI generators are obliged to acknowledge the copyrights of artists on their artworks and to provide them with financial reimbursement. Interesting are two things. First, the foundation for bringing the first decision, judge's first decision, and it was interesting that it was based actually on the way how the copy works in analog world. So, as it was not the entire artwork of any of those artists who are filing lawsuits used for teaching and for coaching the artificial intelligence, but only some segments of artworks, he didn't think it is sufficient argument to ask the artificial image generators to reimburse artists. But artists managed to provide a new set of arguments and to prove that it is not important whether it is your entire work that the artificial intelligence is using to learn or to teach itself the relation between image and the world, and to teach itself a particular art styles. But that is, the important thing is that in some final result, in some new image produced by artificial intelligence that was not existing ever before, the artist could recognize her personal style. And they managed to prove it. So that's the reason for that final verdict. But why am I mentioning it? Because it's, I think, immensely important. Immensely important because this is the first time, and it will be used as a precedent in any future lawsuits. It is the first time that just the fragmented scrapping of the artist's image could be used as a foundation for asking the protection of the copyrights. It's also important in all other cultural industries and in all other arts. I don't know if you have heard for the case with Amazon.com. It was like, I think, 2 years ago. I don't know, have you heard? Amazon also has its artificial intelligence language model. And it was employed to look for the novels which are most read. So they found few authors which had enormous following, and then picked one of them, taught the artificial intelligence language model to copy the style and produce a completely new novel that was published. The name of the artist whose style they took was put on the cover of that novel, and the artist, the writer itself, find out that her novel was published only after some of her readers contacted her and asked how it's possible. They have read the novel. It really resembles her style, but it doesn't resemble a range of other elements of her writing which they recognize as her style. So they asked what happened. And after that, of course, she sued Amazon.com, but the Amazon.com won the lawsuit based on the comments of her readers, who testified that they didn't recognize her style fully developed in that particular novel. So the judge took that argument as a proof that she doesn't have a right to claim any reimbursement for that particular cultural product, or to sue the Amazon.com. The Amazon.com had to remove her name from the cover of the novel, but the novel remained on their pages, and it was further sold as an Amazon, where the Amazon was a collective author. So this lawsuit, which I just explained, I think would have a very strong impact in all areas of art production. And in the center, you see the information about a kind of petition that is it's ongoing process that have been signed by a number of American artists protesting and asking new laws or additional laws to protect their artworks from scrapping. How does it work? It's very interesting. I mean, to sue artificial intelligence generating companies, it's not such an easy task. Because how it works. First, you have a companies or something like almost association of citizens that are scrapping internet daily for thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of images, and putting those images on a free, on open access. Then another stage are companies which are using those free accessible images to teach artificial intelligence to connect the image and the text, to connect the image and its textual explanation. At this point, some of the results of that process are open, available to open access. Some are already a product, which is then given and sold to those agencies, artificial intelligence generator agencies, who are producing fully developed artificial intelligence model for producing images. And at that point, they are not responsible anymore for the copyright of the images because it has been lost somewhere in the process, going through all those three stages. So this is exactly, that process is exactly the object of requests put from the artists in this petition to be regulated very precisely. And to define who is making profit, who exactly is the making profit of scraping artistic images from the internet, and who is responsible for recognizing or for acknowledging artists' copyrights and give them the reimbursement. Another, this is for beginning, another kind of the topic I would like to raise is connected to the way how the results of the application of artificial intelligence image generators is functioning in the digital economy. Here is the slide presenting the artwork, object, I would call it object, produced last year and titled Impossible Sculpture. The difference between this object and any other object that is produced by using 3D printers is in the fact that all the aspects of the production were devised and executed by the computer technology, digital technology. So there isn't any element of the process of its production that involved human hand. So it might be explained as a first first sculpture produced by the application of artificial intelligence in all the aspects of its product. But what I would like to show is a kind of advertisement for this sculpture.
Could the greatest sculptures of all time be resurrected and brought together to create a work of art like the world has never seen before? A collaboration that spans time and space, brought to life by AI and the future of engineering. 500 years in the making, featuring 5 masters from across the globe. An experiment that pits creative genius against cutting-edge technology. A singular sculpture shaped by history and carved out of stainless steel. The impossible statue, made possible by Sandvik.
I think it's quite obvious why I have used this presentation. It really is a corporate as much as it can be. I don't think it's important to go through the process of scraping the images and how the machine is or artificial intelligence is taught to recognize and to connect textual description and the image itself, because it's a process that you have already know. I would just like to put the accent on this image, because I think it's absolutely epitome of something you can call Google Art. So the Google Art is a really enormous project, I would say. It is, Google is connected to some of the most important and the largest image generator, artificial image generator companies. And they have their own tools for artificial image generating, like we see here. They have, and we shall see that in the rest of this presentation. They have a very generous grants for artists who can spend some time from 6 months to a year at the premises of Google, experimenting with artificial intelligence, working together with the engineers. And it's very, I think it's very interesting. We shall see that I have taken as one of my examples Refik Anadol. Have you heard for Refik Anadol? I suppose you have all, because I think it's the biggest star on the sky of artificially produced by artificial intelligence. And he is a perfect product of the Google and digital capitalism. His art, his approach, the way how he's represented, places where he represents his work, how it presents it, and how he is represented in the discourse of something which is supposed to be an art criticism related to artificial intelligence. This which is quite amazing, but in a way it's understandable. At this point, there isn't any, in my opinion, there isn't any group of texts or analysis that you can mark as a theory of art produced by artificial intelligence. There are some very interesting theoretical texts related to art produced by the application of digital technology. I mean, it's not just a few, it's now a huge amount of theoretical and critical production. But this is a completely new and rather different situation. And it's still developing, and it's developing very fast. Try to remember where the artificial intelligence was 3 years ago. You could not compare it to its abilities 3 years ago, could not be compared to its abilities now. And also a kind of rather ambiguous relations of the art world and the, I would say, entire field of visual culture towards the application of artificial intelligence, and bearing in mind the possibility of its influence on jobs in this field of cultural industry, is also growing, and has grown in the last 3 years. And I'm showing you this image because the entire thing, which I've called Google art, is a very complex, because it is not just production of images. It is very complex and, I would say, thoroughly thought over project, which includes the entire new theory of art. You can go to Google and you can ask Google to explain to you art produced by artificial intelligence. You will get a discourse which is very interesting. It's mimicking the structure, and it's mimicking the expressions of theoretical text, but it is terribly empty. It doesn't answer any of the really important questions regarding that phenomena of art produced by artificial intelligence. So it is artificially generated itself. What worries me at this point is that, I find it interesting that the Google art and those, I think, 2 or 3, the most important companies which are controlling actually the visual world of internet, are combining their efforts to actually change the very notion of art. I think of Google, I think of Adobe, and there was a third one, and I'm sorry at this point. I think it's not Microsoft, but I cannot not remember it at this point. What I'm thinking, so go back to this image. This image is a combination of really very, very different elements, resembling, if we are trying to compare it to our knowledge of historical styles, it might be closer to the surrealism. But just it's just a one look which is enough for you to conclude which, in a sense of composition and its styling, which is the particular artwork in the background of this image. I think it's obvious. It's a Van Gogh Starry Night, and I could be accused of being conservative, which I probably am, concerning my years and how long I'm working in this field. Because I find it terribly superficial and actually doesn't affect me in any way. It only can provoke a kind of astonishment because of the combination of the elements it has used. The same, I don't know what you can, just let me go back. How can you relate to this particular sculpture? I have not seen it. I have seen the film that I have showed to you. I have seen few another films, videos between 10 and 15 minutes regarding this sculpture. And my conclusion is I cannot say about that sculpture anything because I cannot see it. I really cannot see it. It's made of a polished stainless steel, and it is presented in all those materials I have seen the way that it doesn't have any stable silhouette. It doesn't have any element that I can actually anchor my gaze to, and to start to read that, the sculpture from that point or any point. But actually it is preventing the way it was executed, the material it was in which it was executed, and the way it was visually presented does not allow me the access to this particular artwork. Also very astonishing but typical for Google art is the combination of references. I think you can see it here. So the references are Michelangelo, Rodin, Katkolwitz, Takamura, and August Savage. And you have listed elements of sculpture that they have taken from each of these artists, combining them in this impossible sculpture. And if there is anything I can agree with, is that it is impossible. First, it's impossible in a sense that it cannot be actually grasped as a sculpture. I don't mind if it is a kind of experiment, of experimental three-dimensional object. But when you name something sculpture, then you are predefining the conditions of its perception. So I cannot apply them in this concrete case. So let me just, I'm sorry, I have and then for a little bit on the financial aspect of the whole story. This is the work of art. I think the name of the person is, I will tell you just in a moment. Jason Allen. And the work of art is, I don't speak French, Theater of the Spatial Opera. It's on French, so this is a kind of English translation. It's American artist. It was awarded in 2022 the Colorado State Fair grant for art, which is, I think it's like $50,000. And it was the first artificially generated image that won such a high prize on some art competition, stirring the havoc and starting the different kinds of polemics. Jason, what's Jason working now? He now has a company which is producing high quality, beautiful artistic images for everyday use. So he expanded his work in that commercial direction. Approximately at the same time, that was in 2022. In 2023, these are two photographs which won the very important and highly evaluated prizes at some photo festivals and photo competitions, both produced by artificial intelligence, and also causing the same kind of stir and reaction. And the third thing is the work. It's Robert Barat's portrait of Edmund Bellamy. It's from 2018, artificially generated painting portrait. But here is where the story begins to be interesting. I'm most probably everything which I said until now sounds like I have some kind of grudge against artificial intelligence, and I think it's not useful, it's dangerous, and so on. No, I don't think so. But I think that it could be really, really very useful. It could be really, really important for the future of art. But I also believe that the type of creativity on which the application of artificial intelligence should rest in art should be a human intelligence, human intervention. It's also, I think, a bit conservative, but here we are. So just a short explanation. This is the artwork resulting from teaching artificial intelligence generator how to recognize a portrait of a single person in a particular palette out of the thousands of portrait images from the end of 18th and the beginning of the 19th century. And it was the first one that was sold by Sotheby's in 2018 for almost 500,000 pounds. Initially, its initial value was 10,000 pounds. What's interesting, it was it was the production of, it was produced by the here mentioned Robbie Barrett and a group of 3 engineers. And the way it was signed is also interesting. It's signed by the Barrett's name, but also with the part of the algorithm that was used in producing this work. And behind the whole story is a story about how that segment of the art world where, in my opinion, the most interesting things are happening, how it's function. Its function is based on the teamwork. And it's something that we have also encountered in the field of digital art history. The teamwork is so very important, mutual support and exchange. For example, this concrete artwork, which attains such a huge amount of money at Sotheby's, was produced using the algorithm that was on GitHub and open access. So it assumes a communication within the digital community, people doing with or interested in developing different digital tools and softwares. So sharing, purposing, and repurposing. In this particular case, the idea was to provoke a kind of rift between the people who produced this artwork, but the media didn't succeed in this. But it's very interesting how the authors reacted to possibility of introducing such rift. So the group obvious, those 3 engineers, gave their statement after the work has been bought for such a huge amount of money, and after the question was raised, how much of that sum will go to Robbie Barrett, whose algorithm was used. We would like to, so this is obvious, we would like to thank the AI community, especially to those who have been pioneering the use of the new technology, including Ian Goodfellow, creator of Gen algorithm, who inspired the name of this Famille de Bellamy series, and artist Robbie Barrett, who has been a great influence for us. It's an exciting moment, and we hope that the spotlight on this sale will bring forward the amazing work that our predecessors and colleagues have been producing. So, the acknowledging the participation of all the people who have contributed to certain artwork is also, I would say, a kind of non-written rule of behavior within this community. We had such kind of encounters in our research, and it taught us to leave the traces or to leave the parts of our programs on GitHub to let other people use it for free, because it was produced, in our case, with the public money. I'm talking here about the algorithms that were produced by private energy and investment, but also given or put at GitHub for sharing. Because sharing means mutual, not only mutual collaboration, but mutual learning. So I will show you a few more works by Barrett, which I found one among the most interesting people in this, or artists within this area. So this is there are 3 of his series. It's very interesting that he was working very intensely from 2018, beginning 2019, and after that you cannot hear from him anything, because he was 17 then. And when he became 18 in 2019, he decided he wanted to get some education. In the meantime, while he was producing those works, he was giving the lectures at postgraduate studies at Stanford on the application of artificial intelligence. So it's a kind of child prodigy. And I'm really interested in what would happen out of him, of David Barrett as an artist, after his walk through the academy. I hope it will be helpful, but at this point, when he was working without any education as a self-taught, the thing which is, in a way, the most important element or characteristics of his work is that immense desire for experiment, imagination which is running wild, and the results which are, because of that, I would say, really astonishing. Here is the series of skulls. It was produced together with a French artist Ronan Barrault. Very similar name, so I have to check it. Barrault is a classic artist. He has never used any digital tools. He is producing classical paintings, but every day or every time after he is making a pause in making his artwork, or after he finishes, he's using the rest of color to paint a skull. So in the meantime, in the last, 35 years, there is a collection of more than 450, 500 skulls that he has painted in this way. What the young Barrett did, I'm mixing them. Robbie Barrett did. He scanned all those paintings, and he used them as a foundation for teaching the IE model what a skull is, providing the IE model with the different palettes, and telling him to try to connect the certain palette with the form of the skull. And it was pretty lame until the artificial intelligence was instructed to take the basic idea of the skull and to apply it to the palette on any way it wants. So without any human instructions, it was given the free hands. And the result, you see those two results. It's very interesting because you have the variations of, they produced, I think, of some kind of 8,000 or 8,500 such images. They selected 100, signed it, and then exhibited in a classical gallery. The next of his projects, and they of course were very met with astonishment and all the positive possible. The still two series which I want to show. This is the series of the landscapes. Going from the very realistic ones, all artificially produced, to those which are actually surmounted to the sign of the landscape. And the most interesting, in my opinion, are nudes. What Paul was interested in? He was not interested in producing images which will resemble this or that style, this or that historical period. He was interested in art that will. He was interested actually in images that artificial intelligence will produce after it will be misinformed. So in this particular case of nudes, the artificial intelligence was taught how to recognize certain parts or a number of the details of the body, like folds on the belly, like I don't know, top of the shoulder, tip of the nose, ear. But it was not taught where the hand, what the arms are, where the arms are, what the legs are, where the legs are, and which is the relation of arms and legs to the body, what to the corpus of the body. So these are the results after, or these are the images produced by artificial intelligence after teaching itself what the nude is, based on 18,000 nude images, paintings, art paintings, from the 16th up to the 20th century, based on those misinformation. And I think it's very interesting because, for example, if you would ask my first impression, who could be a reference of these artworks, Francis Bacon came to mind, which absolutely is not. This is actually how the machine sees us humans. So fragmentary, and if you don't say machine, the exact, if you don't describe the exact relation of the certain element, of the elements of one integral object, it will not know how to produce it. And from that point of view, this is very interesting. This is also his work. He took, I don't know how many, I think it's over 10,000 images of Balenciaga's fashion production from, I think, 1963 until present, and tried to teach artificial intelligence to use the signature color relations, forms, styles, and try to, in a way, make a kind of summary of Balenciaga's fashion throughout that period. That which is interesting, the artificial intelligence also didn't get enough information, because it was, I think you can see that. You see this. I don't know if you see my, do you see my no. Okay. You see this, and this, and I think this. Artificial intelligence does not know what the bag is. It doesn't know if the bag is part of the body, if it is part of the outfit, what does it serve for, as it doesn't know what the clothes is serving for, but it knows where the clothes has to be put. It has to go on the body. So it's very interesting, some of those misunderstandings and with what they have resulted. served as a kind of inspiration for Balenciaga fashion designers for the collection sensation that was produced in the next 2 years. And the last thing that there is a record of Peter's work is he was trying to use famous artworks from the history of art as a kind of a moving background in his interpretation of workcraft. So he went also in the field of computer games. Why? Perhaps I'm too yes, and his reference to Solowit, I think very important to Solowit's artworks done by the instruction. To bring it to wrap up the story and him, why I think, because I think that whenever there is a new media, as it once was a photography, for example, if you don't try to explore it, if you don't try to play with it, if you don't try to fool it, if you don't try to see where are yours and where are the limits of the technology, it really cannot be useful to you. And this one should and could really be useful to artists. And just to wrap up this overly long presentation, I will show you now the Refik Adnan. So Refik Adnan started to make his work in 2013. At a certain point, he was quite close to Lev Manovic. I suppose you've heard of Lev Manovic. And his concepts of data aesthetics, which he took over. And went through all those stages, which I think that at this point could be a rather precise description of how you are rising to the position of the prominent artist in the field of artificial intelligence. So I don't know if you will see. Okay, we have again problem with the projection. It will not start. Okay, then I will just ask you, perhaps it will. So this, what you see behind me, is the collection of MoMA approached as an archive. What he is doing, he is connecting or collecting data on all the objects in MoMA collection, trying to establish relations between artists and between artworks. The relations between treated, of course, as an entities in the network produced by collection, coloring the relations between entities and transforming their relations into this generative image, which is actually based, it is a kind of his representation of the collection, where this granular form you have seen, which is a building element of this projection, is actually entity, one of the entities in this huge network, colored by its relation to other entities in the network. So this is, the important thing I think is that you have that sound scenography, I would say, following the presentation. It was given in MoMA I think at the beginning of this year or the last year. It was started in 2017, but this is presentation for MoMA, the recent one. It was first shown at Davos, at that huge economic forum in Davos, in I think 2018. And this year, the economic forum in Davos also began with his installation. I will show it later. So I think we can stop it now. This is also a presentation. I don't know if it's much shorter, and in a visual sense much more hallucinogen. The first one is called Machine Hallucinations, and so that's the series which started in 2017, and it is, when it's displayed in museums, it requires 3 monitors, one 4 past 12 meters and 2 additional 1 4 past 6 meters. Auditive scenography, and the result, or something that he would like to be a result, is a kind of immersive environment. But it's not such effective as this one. I would really like to show you this one. So this is called dreaming, archive dreaming, and this is the collection. I think 1,350,000 documents. I cannot find. I was trying, but I could not find the documents about what. They are not from MoMA, for sure, but from some kind of visual archives, definitely. Perhaps they're scrapped from internet, but they would not have such consistency as they have here. I'm so sorry. Try to, if it's possible, try to see this presentation. It's available on YouTube, because it's really impressive. It's actually the visualization of very process of processing data. So he visualized harvesting, visualized processing data, visualized the entire process of simple listing to numerical processing to visual processing, up to the last element of that story, which is you standing in front or inside that environment which is enclosing you from all sides, and having a tablet in your hand from which you can choose any image which is in front of you or around you, to get more information about that image and to see the nature of its relations to other images which are surrounding you. But it is the dynamic element, so it's changing all the time. The one we were talking about just a minute before, so that machine hallucination, they are alive as long as you are there. So they are detecting the human presence and they are activated by your presence. Please, I think you will find this particular video very interesting. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have that easiness, and it doesn't count on your senses. It doesn't try to amuse you as the the rest. And this just perhaps one of his most ambitious works. This is the one that was presented this year in Davos, in front of 18,000, the most powerful people from economic sector, and the journal Economist has nominated or marked or emphasized Refik as the most, I think, most deserving artist for year 2024. So this is the work. Just a moment, I lost my. It's a large nature model, and it's really, really fascinating because it has, it consists of millions and millions of data on different botanical and animal species, their relations, their habitats, their connection or use of water, light, and other natural resources, and their correlations. Which is reconstructed. These are just images, still images, but you have on the internet, which are reconstructed using also millions of images scrapped from the internet. It has a sound aspect, so all the time you hear the original sounds connected to the images, but also the smell, so it's a synesthetic. It has the objective to provide you with all the sensations it could based on an image about the object of its presentation. I don't have to remind you that these objects, such artworks are absolutely and immensely expensive. But the important thing is that those three companies I have already mentioned are more than willing to invest a lot of money in such kind of production and to evaluate your imagination and your ability to foresee the result, to experiment and so on. Because at this point, the type of artistic creativity which is necessary for further developing artificial intelligence is crucial. Artificial intelligence can do a lot of things, but it cannot provide us with some very complex cognitive questions and cognitive impulses as the other artworks, the artworks produced by human hand or human brain can. It cannot also, the artificial intelligence cannot do at this point one very, very important thing. Whenever you are creating something, I'm now talking from the point of view of me as art historian making a text. You need, the crucial element is imagination. Not so much your knowledge, it is important, but your imagination. And imagination is the most complex set of cognitive and affective capabilities or features of our brain, which is very, very hard to mimic because it's so unique in individual. And the other element, which I think it would be very, very, very hard to also to build into artificial intelligence models, is intuition. Human capability to react immediately to the situation which is in its immediate environment, to bring judgment and to react. So these are two elements which I think that we shall have to wait for a long time. And just one, as we are coming to the end, I would just like to say the last is putting the question: do we have to fear of art? It's somehow going throughout the entire lecture. Depends. First, this is the article from Jacobin magazine, and the point is, if the artificial intelligence would be connected to the socialist society, then it would be used in a way to allow people to have more time to develop themselves, to express themselves, while the artificial intelligence and all other technologies will take over all that repetitive and hard work that we are doing today to keep our livelihood. And then we shall, and it would be of course based on the just distribution of resources. It sounds wonderful, really, but it will not happen. That will be, what will happen is that we shall have to learn how to live with artificial intelligence and not to fear it. Also, how to use it in our advance. I think that one of the things that we have to, why we should not be so afraid, and Chomsky says we do not have to, that Chomsky says the media want us to be afraid, because then it's easier to manipulate with our fear. Why? Because if you just go to the basics, the artificially produced images do not have a number of qualities of the images produced by the human brain and then human hand. And in a way, artificial image generated models would always need images produced by human hand. Because at one particular moment they will find themselves in a situation that they are reproducing a very, very narrow amount of images which are terribly alike. So I don't, to end this story, it's very, I find the future, both in science, if art history is science, and visual arts, very exciting. Not perhaps bright, but very, very exciting. Thank you very much. I'm here for questions if there are questions. Yes?
English, slovensko, mix, hrvaško.
Ne, možete govoriti na slovenskom, ja razumijem slovenski, ali ne mogu vam odgovoriti na slovenskom.
Okay. Mene zanima slike od Robija. So slike? Fizične slike?
Ovo što sam ja pokazala, mislim. These are artificially generated images printed on canvas. So they are mimicking a classical painting.
Mislim, da mi tukaj izhajamo iz nekega bolj tradicionalnega, sploh če se gre za slikarstvo. Pa vizualna umetnost me zanima v relaciji recimo z zombi formalizmom. Gibanjem v 20, ko je bilo ful hitro zapalo, ker je bilo več kot očitno ful površinsko in komercialno usmerjeno. Me zanima, kak je vaš pogled specifično glede vizualnih zadev, kako življenjsko dobo si predstavljate za AI generirane.
Nisam potpuno razumjela. You mean how I'm seeing this period or some future period?
I'm wondering how you see the development of specifically visual AI generated paintings, whatever.
Well, I think Robbie really fascinates me. I don't see that on the point of those elements that contemporary art criticism is evaluating when talking about contemporary artwork is missing. Just turn around and see how many artworks at this point are not produced by the human hand and they are evaluated as artworks. All those cyberchromes or huge photographs which are actually... So métier, the touch of your hand, is not important anymore. For a long time now, the idea is important. So I don't see really the very huge difference between those so-called not so traditional, but artworks which still belong within the traditional, relatively traditional notion of art. And those produced by IE, if we are talking about the creative genius or creative force which is behind them. I don't see real difference between decision to misinform IE and see what will you get, and decision to, I don't know, combine certain elements of installation, data art, and perhaps classical painting or sculpture to produce the contemporary installation which will belong in this relatively traditional sense of art. I mean, the means are just different, but the results I don't see real difference. But I think that nobody can actually say what will happen in future. That which I'm kind of afraid of is, you remember the Warhols claim that everybody should be famous for 15 minutes. So I think you have the possibility to use social networks now and to attain that fame, even longer than 15 minutes. But then, concerning the hunger of digital capitalism for images, they're also trying to convince you that you, regardless of not being artist, regardless of not seeing yourself as a creative person, you can produce images which are nice, which are valuable. Just put them and show them to other people. And what's happening? You are actually feeding the system with the free images. And those images used in that way, I mean, that hunger for images is leading us towards the kind of a discourse that will equalize, not equalize, but it will actually drastically change, in my opinion, the idea who is artist and who can be artist and why. Which I think it might be quite serious topic for discussion. And still one thing I didn't manage to say, which also is important and we are losing it from. One of the things which are connected with artificial intelligence models is that they are using enormous amount of energy to produce the images. Something like a Bitcoin stations. So they are actually environmental rather unfriendly, but you will not find that information anywhere, which is very important. Thank you. Did I give a partial answer to?
Yeah, I would maybe like to just one more.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your opinion, specifically in the realm of painting, as a traditional painting. Because I feel like in these circles, it's a predominant opinion that when you move a visual image from a digital medium to a physical medium, that something gets lost in the translation, and that the painting, the object, the painting itself needs something more that just a transfer of a digital image does not provide. So in a very just strictly painting sense, I'm wondering what's your opinion.
Well, I think it also depends from case to case, but that loss or gain, however you can interpret, I think it's mostly media-based. So, I mean, it's obvious that when you transfer one image from one to other media, that it will have some different features or emanating different kind of energy because of the very transfer. But I would not interpret or explain the difference in terms of loss. Anybody else?
Yeah, do you think we have to invent a new language of art theory to interpret those new artworks?
Well, perhaps. I just think that we have to inform ourselves about the processes that are going behind. Because there is a tendency, I mean, it in a way it's natural that those processes which are happening within the machine. In this, I'm warning. This is really warning. I'm warning against that Google theory of art discourse. They are compared to the processes which are going in our brains when judging and looking, or when producing artwork. So, you know, the process of producing artwork as it's written and inscribed in a human brain is compared to the process of producing artificial images within the brain of the computer, within the model of artificial intelligence. And in that way, I think it's important to know these processes, to understand them, perhaps more than inventing a new terminology. And actually, because at this point I really don't see some critical mass of artworks produced with artificial intelligence that could serve as a foundation for devising new language. It has to be more broader base at this point, because the images that, as it's starry night with the very strange creatures, I don't get it. I don't take it as art. So the things like a Bharat, the things like Rafik, it's at this point, for example, the difference that I could introduce it, that Paul is or Peter Barrett, that like he's that promising part of using or application of artificial intelligence, and Rafik is more. If we compare it to our existing experience, he's like a kind of high modernism. He's that shiny product and it's very interesting how the question of social class is inscribed in Rafik's art. So this is the kind of approach for which we don't need a new language, but just a perhaps different perspective.
Are you aware of any critical media art that is critiquing AI, that some art production that is not generating these decorative wallpaper corporate things that are meaningless in the sense of the word, but is looking at medium-specific art or potentially critical art?
Well, it's something which is also at this moment scary. That most of this art production is so obviously and so strongly remote from the social reality. Most of this art is meant to provide you with a sensation of pleasure, tranquility. It's it has a kind of hypnotic quality. And the idea, the very fact that it wants to be synesthetic means it wants to, in a way, grab all your senses and provide you with a completely artificial world that will, in that sense, for the entire you, all your senses, remove from the reality in which you will find yourself after going out from the museum or wherever you are enjoying this kind of artwork. And concerning critical objections on the point, if it's what you mean from art critic.
Artworks or artists dealing with AI, working with AI in a critical fashion, and not just to feed the.
I don't know at this point. And it's moving. I don't know. Have you? I believe you might, because it was so terribly popular last summer and the summer before, those exhibitions, immersive reality exhibitions, where you can immerse yourself in the world of Van Gogh or Frida Kahlo, or have you seen something of that? So the first thing which is really, in my opinion, offensive, you have complete deconstruction of somebody's artwork, which happened with Frida, and it was painful. The constructed environments do not have anything to do actually with immersive environments, because you have projectors from different positions projecting the same images, so it's a false one by itself. So I would say that the contemporary art relying on artificial intelligence is moving exactly in that direction. In direction of providing situations which are both pleasing and commercially exploitive. For example,
there is art outside of this, of course.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you saw any.
No, at this point, no. But as I say, the production of that which you can call art is still so narrow And from this narrow production, I don't see any such. I think that it's also connected with the fact that it's very expensive. I really doubt that Google will found or give a grant to artists that will try to develop artificial intelligence in a direction of social criticism. I don't think so.
I don't want to make this a debate. I work in the field and I'm trying to be gentle to the overall conversation in the room. So, but there is a vast space of critique, very articulate for many years right now.
If you're thinking about, if you're thinking about the work of Gert Loving and the entire generation that was connecting to the fringe media and producing counter digital capitalism counter discourse, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
In that field, there's also actual artistic practice all this time, since the mid-90s at least, but also since before, a bit less. And it is producing art works and art careers and discourse as well that are quite strong right now and visible. So I was figuring, because this stuff you've shown is well known. It's like I said, I enjoy very much your cynicism about, economists declared this a good piece of art, fantastic. Yeah. You don't need to say anything else. It's like the worst thing that can happen to an artist to get this kind of recognition. Also, like, this art is shown in Dallas, like that's like how we measure quality of art. These things I see, but I was kind of hoping to see what you are possibly noticing as a valuable counterpoint, because this is, I believe, the only type of art that is going to withstand the test of time. Because you see, Africanados screensavers are dead the second they're shut down, and they leave no trace in artistic community whatsoever, because he's really like a Gucci boutique designer. His work has been always seen like that, and it's just going to grow further until there's no more limits to what capitalism, But it has zero artistic relevance.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned Levan, his books are inspiring, his artistic experiments are terrible.
From the point of view of art historian, it's disaster, complete disaster.
But this thinking has been around for all this time. There's good art happening. We can gallery here and there that exhibits this stuff.
Yeah, I have just, sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah.
I have chosen these examples because, in my opinion, they are in a way defining the space for artificial intelligence art at the museums and galleries, especially if they are official institutions, at this point. And they can count on the support of a corporate world. But the art you are mentioning, yes, I completely agree with you. I have only one problem with that production. I have a problem that it is counting on the element of not community, it's counting on idea of community which is not functional anymore.
It's a minority situation, like the Dada or the Surrealists. The key contributions to history of art never happened from the corporate boardroom.
But it's already too long here, and I don't see that contribution, and I don't see that upheaval which is necessary as a kind of counterfeiting digital capitalism. So I mean, it is not enough just to be there and to be alternative. It's in a way not active. I mean, I think at this moment we need a kind of revolution. Digital revolution, in a sense of occupying all those spaces within or in between the corporate digital spaces. with a completely different type of visual discourse. I don't know how it should look like, but it certainly would not look like this. I'm not sure it should look like the art you are also talking about. It could be inspiring because what I appreciate in art you're talking about is that a rather strong sticking to the idea of the closeness between life and art, in this sense, in this moment when a lot of life is actually going on in the virtual space. So I mean, it's very important, but as I say, it counts, in my opinion, to the idea of community which is not functional in a sense of radical change anymore. It's idea of 80s.
Well, we're talking about art, we're talking about a field of symbolic action where you can detect things, express opinions about social fabric, about political economy, even if you're not going to create a political party and win an election. You don't have to do all those other things. So staying at the position of critique is still a legitimate position, even though you know you're not going to change the economic trajectory of Google or OpenAI.
I would not.
I
would not exactly thinking on parliamentary means.
Yeah, sure. But
Sorry.
I don't want to.
Sorry.
I apologize.
You could go.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
Vuk Tosić, če ga poznate, no?
Ja.
Hvala lepa Ljiljana, ne, za ta, predstavitev, lepo da si podala.
Hvala, ja bih voljela jako nastaviti ovaj razgovor. Hvala vam što ste došli. Ja ne znam kakva situacija na našoj akademiji, mislim da se u našoj akademiji u Zagrebu počelo. I think that on our academy in Zagreb we started to talk about these problems too. And in a way, after my conversation with Vuk, I really apologize for actually concentrating only on this aspect of application of artificial intelligence, which is in a way institutionally accepted. I had in mind the fact that most probably most of you will work at some institutional framework or some corporate framework, which is actually spreading throughout the cultural industries. And so I missed this aspect of critical computer art, which is present here from the 80s and 90s. Perhaps because it was not so intense in a way of using artificial intelligence as with such an ease as those models I have shown to you. So my apology for this, for missing part of my story. Thank you very much once again.